we're gonna sew up a sports bra and we are going to give it professional, beautiful finishes inside and out. We're going to be attaching elastic to all of the seams and we're gonna have this nice sturdy band here at the bottom. And at the end, we're gonna give it a bounce test to make sure it holds those girls in place. We have a pattern available for you to download right now on the website, sizes extra small through 6X. Link down below in the description or sewinganastasia.com. For fabric today, I'd like you to use a 4-way stretch spandex fabric. It is nice and sturdy. I definitely recommend a nice sturdy knit for this pattern, but you can use any knit you want. If you want to learn how to size any knit to any pattern, make sure you check out my video on that. Just put it out and we'll also put a link down below in the description. So the first thing you need to do is print out your pattern. You can either print out the home printer version or the large format version. And then after you have it printed out, choose your size. So make sure you measure the full part of your bust and select it off of the size chart. Now that we have the pattern printed, it's time to cut out our fabric. And you're gonna notice that it says cut one self and cut one lining because we are fully lining the sports bra. Now you can choose the same fabric for your lining or you can choose a different one. For my self fabric today, I'm using this fun wasp print that I designed and had printed on some 4-way stretch spandex. Now for the lining, I'm going to be using a yellow 4-way stretch spandex. You could also buy a nude color stretch spandex lining as well. And you're also gonna need some elastic for underneath the sports bra. Now I recommend 2-inch, but you could use 1-inch, 3/4. You can use whatever you like, really. Or maybe you wanna use 4-inch wide elastic. That would be really fun. Now let's lay out our fabric and cut out our pieces. So for the front, we're just gonna cut one out of the self. So I do not have my fabric folded in half. I just need one out of the self fabric. So I'm just gonna work my way all the way around this pattern piece. All done. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the back. All done with the back. Now I'm gonna cut out the exact same pieces for my lining. The sports bra is all cut out. Let's look at the pieces. We have the front self, the front lining, the back self, and the back lining. Now it's time to cut our underband elastic. Now these elastics stretch all differently just to make your life extra fun with sewing. So how do we get the proper stretch for the underband so it holds us properly? The easiest thing to do is take it and wrap it around you. And now what I want you to do is pull it as tight as you would like it to be under you. Now look at how much stretch this one has. It has a lot. So I know I'm going to need to stretch it a fair amount to make it comfortable and tight on me still to hold and support. So right when I have it where I want it, I can still move in and out of it to get it on and off. It's gonna be real important. You gotta be able to get it on and off. Let go and then go ahead and cut. Now make sure you are not leaving any seam allowance here because we're gonna end up butting those seams together later. So no seam allowance, no extra. So just cut it where it was comfortable for you. And so now I have my underband elastic ready to go. The first thing we're going to do is serge the shoulders together, lining to lining, self to self. We're serging our fabrics together, right sides together, and we are just serging the shoulders right now. And we're gonna do the same thing on the lining. Yes, I am going to be serging my seams together. If you do not have a serger, you do have options though. You can use that stretch knit stitch on your sewing machine. You can use a narrow zigzag stitch. You could use an overcast stitch. So choose your method and let's sew these shoulders together. Both of those shoulders are serged and I'm going to do the same thing to my lining. And just like that, we have our shoulders all serged together. Now we're gonna place the lining right side with the self right side, and we are going to sew together the neck. And when we do this, we're attaching our 1/4-inch piece of elastic, pulling it ever so slightly. And when we attach the elastic, we need to make sure we're attaching it to the self fabric side, so that way the lining rolls to the inside later. So we're gonna serge all the way around the neck, adding that little piece of elastic right here on the self side. So I took off the bed of my serger so that way I can fit my circular shape right here, and it makes it so much easier for serging. So I have the self side face up. I'm gonna start at the shoulder, making sure my shoulder seams are nice and lined up. And then we're going to get our elastic in there. I always like to take the hand wheel, pull it down on the elastic. Now we are ready to go. Remember, just a little pull. We're gonna overlap the elastic by a 1/2 inch when we end and serge off. Now that we have the neck sewn together with the elastic in it, let's take a look at it and go over how we understitch the lining on a knit like this. We're going to flip ourselves to the inside so that way we can see the lining here. And now what we're going to do is take the elastic and we're going to push it towards the lining, and we're going to add a little zigzag stitch here on the lining layer, catching the elastic. This is going to prevent the lining from wanting to flip to the right side of the garment when you're wearing it. So it's going to essentially help the lining layer stay to the inside of the garment. This is called an understitch, and we're going to be using a little zigzag stitch because we're sewing with a knit. I'm going to be using my lightning bolt stitch, which is my stretch stitch on the sewing machine, and I made my stitch length 3.5. So I'm going to be adding a stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam. And you want to make sure this stays nice and flat while you're doing this. Working with the spandex can be a little tricky, so just try and hold it flat. Sometimes I like to keep a hand in the back. And just make sure it's going through real nice. And if your fabric is stretching out at all, you want to make a longer stitch length and maybe take a little pressure off the foot. Back stitch and cut. Our understitch is finished, and look at this, it stretches beautifully. We've used that serger to serge on the elastic and the regular sewing machine with our knit stitch to hold it down. So you can really see how the lining's pulling to the inside by adding that understitch. Now we're going to serge together and add elastic to the armhole of the sports bra. Now follow along closely because we need to fold these armholes a special way, otherwise they're not going to work out. I think the easiest way to understand this is take your two edges, and because we need to sew right sides together, flip them right sides together at the armpit here, at the underarm. And then go ahead and clip them together so you don't lose that positioning. Now we need everything to be right sides together. So just go ahead and keep flipping this and clipping it together until you get to the other side. Now you're gonna notice it starts to create what people like to call this burrito method. So we are going to flip and keep pulling until we get to the other side seam. And there it is. So we are going to just keep on clipping. So you're gonna notice you're going to have this extra fabric inside, and that's okay. There's our shoulder seams. Go ahead and clip your shoulder seams together. Okay, now what we're going to do is serge and add that elastic at the same time to this armhole. When you start, make sure you have yourself face up, but right sides together. Add about 3 or 4 stitches, and then I want you to insert your elastic. So I want you to leave your 3/8 of an inch seam allowance without the elastic in it. It's gonna make it easier later when we sew up the side seams. So we're gonna get that elastic in there now. Go ahead, lower your foot, and then just continue serging this elastic on. And again, you can give it a very small pull, but we don't want to cinch up the armhole. We just want to add some structure. Make sure you're not catching any of the extra layers that are inside of the tube, inside of our little burrito method here. And again, at the end, I like to end the elastic about 3/8 of an inch away from the end. And serge off. Let's take a look at our little burrito here and unstuff it. So now we're gonna take it and just pull it so it is right side out. And then check this out. We have got this armhole here, nice and finished. And for the armhole, I'm not going to be adding that understitch. You could if you like. You're only going to be able to add it up to about midway armhole because you're not going to be able to get into this small section up here. So that is an option for you, not something you have to do. I won't be doing it on this one. Now we're going to do the exact same thing to the other armhole. Now what we need to do is serge up the sides, and I'm not going to be adding elastic to these sides. You could, but our stretch is not going that way, so I'm not super worried about it. So we're going to place front to back, lining up our side seams. You're going to do one side at a time. And so you're going to pull these apart so that way yourself is lining up, and then your lining side seams are lining up. And we are going to serge the entire side seam together, the self and the lining at the same time. Now you really want to make sure that the seam here at the underarm is matched up, and you want to make sure that that elastic, if you have it, if you're going to go over it right there, is facing down towards the self. And we're going to do the same thing to both sides. And again, you're going to do the same thing to the other side. We are looking so good. We are almost done. Now what I want to do is take these two layers here, and I'm just going to serge them together. That way it cleans up the edge and it keeps them together and preps it for putting on the bottom band. Overlap your stitches and serge off. Now we have those bottom layers serged together, and it's time to apply the band. Let me show you how to do that. So I've already sewn the two edges together on the band. I butted them up next to each other and zigzagged them together. So you can see there's no seam allowance there. It's nice and flat on both sides. So I'm going to keep the seam of the band at the side seam of my sports bra. So I'm going to overlap the band about a ½ inch on the sports bra here, and I'm going to pin it. I'm going to be using the sewing machine to attach this, so that's why I am using the pins. If you have a cover stitch machine, you can also use a cover stitch. Now I want to find out where the halfway point is in this, and I'm going to go ahead and put another pin right in the top of the elastic, so I know where that's at, or you can use some chalk. Now I'm going to pin this side over on the other side seam, again, overlapping it about a ½ inch, and then pinning these two layers together. Basically, I'm evenly distributing the stretch of the bottom band to the top of the sports bra. Now, I'm just going to use those two pins there and stretch it and sew it as I go. You could also quarter it. You could put another point in the elastic and another point in the sports bra. If you need help with that, I've got a whole video about quartering. So you want everything right side up. You are going to see the stitch, and I'm using a broken zigzag stitch with a width of 7.5 and a length of 18. Your machine might not go to a length of 18, so just go as long as you can. I'm going to be using the fix button so I don't see an overlap of stitches. You can backstitch. So once you get a few back stitches in there, get over the seam, go ahead and stretch this to your next point so that way you can figure out how much stretch you need to add while you're doing this. So we're going to stretch it and sew it on. You get back to where you started, either fix or backstitch, and cut. We finished our sports bra. Let's take a look at the sewing details. We have our beautiful elastic band on the bottom here. We've got our elastic zigzag together. We've got our beautiful seams on the side, super stretchy, no popping at all. And on the inside, we've got our understitch. I love that yellow lining, such a fun pop. And on the inside, we have all of our beautiful finishes and seams. So there's nothing that's going to be rubbing on us. And on the bottom, we serged those layers together before we added that zigzag stitch. So we have a beautiful finished sports bra, and it was so easy to make. Love it. And it fits great too. Check out how nice and secure we are. Here's the front, and here's the back. And I promised you the bounce test because it's so important that your sports bra is holding and fitting you right. So if we jump up and down, you can see we don't have a lot of motion there. It's really keeping us secure. And with the size of this bra, I can still breathe really easy. It's also very important that you can breathe in your sports bra. I know I've definitely tried some on before and they're just squeezing me so tight that I can't breathe. Well, in this one we can. That 4-way stretch spandex is really going to be great for movement, and the double layer makes it nice and secure and sturdy. And don't forget, you can download the pattern at sewinganastasia.com, and it comes in sizes extra small through 6X. And if you don't have a serger, you can totally use your sewing machine. Just make sure you're using your stretch stitches. And that extra elastic in the seams is so important for the structure of this sports bra, so don't skip on that step. I'd love to see pictures of your sports bras, so make sure you tag me in them or send them over, and I'd love to share them with everyone else. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure you like and subscribe to Sewing Anastasia. It really helps out the channel a lot. And there's that notification bell, so make sure you hit it so you know when the new videos do come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. These videos are for you guys. And don't forget, if you're in Chicago, you can come on into my design studio and take sewing classes with me. Yay! And if you're not in Chicago, that's okay. We now have online sewing classes, and we are building out the courses right now, so expect a lot of new courses this fall. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook and all the socials. That way we can stay connected and creative together. And in the stories, I always post what's going on in the studio, so you can get a glimpse into my sewing world here. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!